this mantra. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Caitanya
Jai Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
So tonight we're continuing the reading of Sri Caitanya-caritamrta, Antya-lila, the last part of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Lord Chaitanya's pastimes are divided into three divisions. The Adi-lila, which means the beginning, which means his time from his appearance till the time that he took sannyas, when he went through the phases of babyhood and childhood and studenthood and married life. And then when he took sannyas, then Madhya-lila began. And then he traveled and preached and showed us how to become qualified to get the highest goal of life by serving, by preaching, and by trying to convince others to take up Krishna consciousness. Then finally he ended up in Puri for the last 12 years, and that's the Antya-lila. He's there in Puri after having done all these things, and he's with his most intimate associates, and he's exhibiting the pastimes of loving exchanges in all different ways, in all different relationships with his most intimate associates, and showing how to be an authority perfectly, how to be a devotee perfectly, and particularly how to be an authority perfectly, because he was the topmost authority. Now we're reading the second chapter of Antya-lila. We just heard in the first chapter the meeting of Rupa Goswami for the second time, and now we're going to hear the chastisement of Junior Haridas, because there's two sides of mercy. Usually people think of mercy as a pat on the head or some positive thing, but sometimes mercy comes in the form of chastisement. And Lord Chaitanya is going to demonstrate this. Vandeham Sri Guru, Sri Yuta Padakamalam, Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha, Sri Rupam Sagrajatam, Sahagana Raganathan Vitam, Tam Sajivam, Sadvetam Savadutam, Purijana Sahitam, Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Sri Radha Krishna Padan, Sahagana Lalita, Sri Vishakhan Vitam Cha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and of all the other preceptors on the path of devotional service. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas and under the 6 Goswamis, including Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and their associates. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all his devotees, headed by Srivas Thakur. I then offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, Srimati Radharani, and all the gopis, headed by Lalita and Vishaka. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In his incarnation as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Sri Krishna descended to deliver all the living beings in the 3 worlds, from Brahmaloka down to Pataloka. He caused their deliverance in 3 ways. The Lord delivered the fallen souls in some places by meeting them directly, in other places by empowering a pure devotee, and in still other places by appearing before someone himself. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered almost all the fallen souls by directly meeting them. He delivered others by entering the bodies of great devotees, such as Nakula Brahmachari. And he delivered still others by appearing before them, as in the case of Nishingananda Brahmachari. I shall deliver the fallen souls. This statement characterizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The Lord always manifested his Avirbhav appearance in the following 4 places. 1. The house of Srimati Shachimata, his mother. 2. Wherever Nityananda Prabhu danced in ecstasy. 3. The house of Srivas, when Kirtan was performed. And 4. The house of Raghava Pandit. Lord Chaitanya himself appeared in these 4 places. In this connection, one may consult text 34, which we'll hear eventually. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was personally present, anyone in the world who met him, even once, was fully satisfied and became spiritually advanced. Every year, devotees from Bengal would go to Jagannath Puri to meet Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and after the meeting, they would return to Bengal. Similarly, people who went to Jagannath Puri from various provinces of India were fully satisfied after seeing the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. People from all over the universe, including the 7 islands, the 9 khandas, the planets of the demigods, Gandharva Loka and Kinar Loka, would go there in the forms of human beings. Purport. For an explanation of Saptadvipa, see Antya-lila chapter 20, verse 218, and Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 16 and 20. We're not going to be able to go to all those places and fill in the details. You'll have to do that yourselves on your own. In the Siddhanta Shiromani, chapter 1, Goladhyaya, and in the Bhuvana Kosha section, the 9 khandas are mentioned as follows. Within Bharatavarsha, there are 9 khandas. They are known as 1. Aindra, 2. Kasheru, 3. Tamraparna, 4. Gavastimat, 5. Kumarika, 6. Naga, 7. Saumya, 8. Varuna, and 9. Gandharva. Having seen the Lord, they all became Vaishnavas. Thus, in ecstatic love of Godhead, they chanted the Hare Krishna mantra and danced. Thus, by direct meetings, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the 3 worlds. Some people, however, were entangled in material activities and could not go. To deliver people in regions throughout the universe who could not meet him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally entered the bodies of pure devotees. Thus he empowered living beings, his pure devotees, by manifesting in them so much of his own devotion that people in all other countries became devotees by seeing them. This is going on right now, and we're here by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Purport. As stated in the Caitanya-caritamrta, Kalera Dharma, Krishna Nam Sankirtan, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravartan. And thus one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. One cannot spread the holy names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra throughout the world. Persons who do so are empowered. Therefore, they are sometimes called Avesha avatars, or empowered incarnations, for they are endowed with the power of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is evidence directly that Srila Prabhupada was Shaktivesh, empowered incarnation. Ah, Hare Krishna. How nice to see you. Please, take your seat wherever you like. The theater has not filled up yet. Haribo, Hare Krishna. So, I was reading Bhagavatam with Bhaktantonio, and we came upon this one purport in which Srila Prabhupada described that he defined kirtan as explaining the Bhagavatam. Chanting, hearing the Bhagavatam, and then explaining, Shravanam Kirtanam. So he's defining Kirtanam as explaining the Bhagavatam to others. So the whole spreading of the holy name and the explaining of Srimad Bhagavatam is on the same level. And once Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter, and he said, I cannot understand why people are making a division between reading the books or studying the books or book distribution in particular, and the kirtan and the chanting of the holy name. Because when I speak, he's speaking these words into a dictaphone, and then they're transcribing them, and then they're publishing them, books. So when you read this, and this is why I'm promoting so much the reading out loud of these books, because it is kirtan in its highest form. The holy name and the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and Caitanya-caritamrta specifically. If you read these books out loud, then you're engaging in kirtan. And if you explain them to others, the kirtan becomes sankirtan. In this way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the entire three worlds, not only by his personal presence, but also by empowering others. I shall briefly describe how he empowered a living being in Bengal. In Ambuya Mulaka, there was a person named Nakula Brahmachari, who was a perfectly pure devotee, greatly advanced in devotional service. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that Ambuya Mulaka is the present Ambika, a city in the Vardhamana district of West Bengal. Formerly, during the Muslim regime, it was known as Ambuya Mulaka. In this city, there is a neighborhood called Pyariganj, and that is where Nakula Brahmachari used to live. Text 17. Desiring to deliver all the people of Bengal, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu entered the heart of Nakula Brahmachari. Nakula Brahmachari became exactly like a man haunted by a ghost. Thus he sometimes laughed, sometimes cried, sometimes danced, and sometimes chanted like a madman. Sometimes they think we're haunted by ghosts. He continuously exhibited bodily transformations of transcendental love. Thus he cried, trembled, became stunned, perspired, danced in love of Godhead, and made sounds like those of a cloud. His body shone with the same luster as that of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he showed the same absorption in ecstatic love of Godhead. People came from all provinces of Bengal to see these symptoms. He advised whomever he met to chant the holy names, Hare Krishna. Thus, upon seeing him, people were overwhelmed with love of Godhead. When Shivananda Sen heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had entered the body of Nakula Brahmachari, he went there with doubts in his mind. Desiring to test the authenticity of Nakula Brahmachari, he stayed outside, thinking as follows: if Nakula Brahmachari personally calls me and knows my worshipable mantra, then I shall understand that he is inspired by the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thinking in this way, he stayed some distance apart. There was a large crowd of people, some coming and some going. Indeed, some people in that great crowd could not even see Nakula Brahmachari. In his inspired state, Nakula Brahmachari said, Shivananda Sen is staying some distance away. 2 or 4 of you can go call him. Thus people began running here and there, calling in all directions. Shivananda, whoever is Shivananda, please come. Nakula Brahmachari is calling you. Hearing these calls, Shivananda Sen quickly went there, offered obeisances to Nakula Brahmachari, and sat down near him. Nakula Brahmachari said, I know that you are doubtful. Now please hear this evidence with great attention. You are chanting the Agora Gopal mantra, composed of 4 syllables. Now please give up the doubts that have resided within you. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains the Gora Gopal mantra in his Amrita Pravaha Bhasha. That's his commentary on Caitanya-caritamrta, and Prabhupada uses it extensively to write his purports. Worshippers of Sri Gaurachandra, Gaurasundar, accept the 4 syllables, Gauranga. We say it Gauranga, but it's actually Gauranga, 4 syllables. But pure worshippers of Radha and Krishna accept the 4 syllables, Radha Krishna, as the Gaur Gopal mantra. However, Vaishnavas consider Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu non-different from Radha Krishna. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. Therefore, one who chants the mantra Gauranga and one who chants the names of Radha and Krishna are on the same level. Shivananda Sen thereupon developed full confidence in his mind that Nakula Brahmachari was filled with the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shivananda then offered him respect and devotional service. In this way, one should understand the inconceivable potencies of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now please listen, now please hear how his appearance, Avirbhav, takes place. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always appeared in 4 places: in the household of temple of Mother Shachi, in the places where Sri Nityananda Prabhu danced, and in the house of Srivas Pandit during congregational chanting, and in the house of Raghava Pandit. He appeared because of his attraction to the love of his devotees. That is his natural characteristics. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared before Nishinga Brahmachari and ate his offerings. Please hear about this with attention. Shivananda Sen had a nephew named Srikanta Sen, who by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was extremely fortunate. One year, Srikanta Sen came alone to Jagannath Puri in great eagerness to see the Lord. Seeing Srikanta Sen, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed causeless mercy upon him. Srikanta Sen stayed near Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for about 2 months at Jagannath Puri. When he was about to return to Bengal, the Lord told him, forbid the devotees of Bengal to come to Jagannath Puri this year. This year I shall personally go to Bengal and meet all the devotees there, headed by Advaita Acharya. Please inform Shivananda saying that in the month of Pausha, December, January, I shall certainly go to his home. Jagadananda is there, and he will give me offerings of food. Inform them all that no one should come to Jagannath Puri this year. When Sri Caitanya returned to Bengal and delivered this message, the minds of all the devotees were very pleased. Advaita Acharya was just about to go to Jagannath Puri with all the other devotees. But upon hearing this message, he waited. Shivananda Sen and Jagadananda also stayed back, awaiting the arrival of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. When the month of Pausha arrived, Jagadananda and Shivananda collected all kinds of paraphernalia for the Lord's reception. Every day, they would wait until evening for the Lord to come. As the month passed but Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu did not come, Jagadananda and Shivananda became most unhappy. Suddenly, Nishingananda arrived, and Jagadananda and Shivananda arranged for him to sit near them. Seeing them both so unhappy, Nishingananda inquired, "Why do I see that you are both despondent?" Then Shivananda Sen told him, "Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu promised that he would come. Why then has he not arrived?" Hearing this, Nishingananda Brahmachari replied, "Please be satisfied. I assure you that I shall bring him here 3 days from now." Shivananda and Jagadananda knew of Nishingananda Brahmachari's influence and love of Godhead. Therefore they now felt assured that he would certainly bring Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. His real name was Pradyumna Brahmachari. The name Nishingananda had been given to him by Lord Gaurasundar himself. After meditating for 2 days, Nishingananda Brahmachari told Shivananda Sen, "I have already brought Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to the village known as Panihati. Tomorrow at noon he will come to your home. Therefore please bring all kinds of cooking ingredients. I shall personally cook and offer him food. In this way I shall bring him here very soon. Be assured that I am telling you the truth. Do not be doubtful. Bring all the ingredients very soon, for I want to begin cooking immediately. Please do it, I say." Nishingananda Brahmachari said to Shivananda, "Please bring whatever cooking ingredients I want." Thus Shivananda Sen immediately brought whatever he asked for. Beginning early in the morning, Nishingananda Brahmachari cooked many varieties of food, including vegetables, cakes, sweet rice, and other preparations. After he finished cooking, he brought separate dishes for Jagannath and Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He also separately offered dishes to Nishingadev, his worshipable deity. Thus he divided all the food into 3 offerings. Then, outside the temple, he began to meditate upon the Lord. In his meditation, he saw Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu quickly come, sit down, and eat all 3 offerings, leaving behind no remnants. Pradyumna Brahmachari was overwhelmed by transcendental ecstasy upon seeing Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu eating everything. Thus tears flowed from his eyes. Nevertheless, he expressed dismay, saying, "Alas, alas, my dear Lord, what are you doing? You are eating everyone's food." "My dear Lord, you are one with Jagannath, therefore I have no objection to your eating his offering, but why are you touching the offering for Lord Nishingadev? I think that Nishingadev could not eat anything today, and therefore he is fasting. If the master fasts, how can the servant live?" Although Nishinga Brahmachari felt jubilation within his heart to see Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu eating everything, for the sake of Lord Nishingadev, he externally expressed disappointment. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Therefore, there is no difference between Him, Lord Jagannath, and Lord Nrsingadev. Pradyumna Brahmachari was deeply eager to understand this fact. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed it to him by a practical demonstration. After eating all the offerings, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started for Panihati. There, he was greatly satisfied to see the different varieties of vegetables prepared in the house of Raghava. Shivananda said to Nishingananda, "Why are you expressing dismay?" Nishingananda replied, "Just see the behavior of your Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He alone has eaten the offerings for all three deities. Because of this, both Jagannath and Nrsingadev remained fasting." When Shivananda Sen heard this statement, he was unsure whether Nishingananda Brahmachari was speaking that way because of ecstatic love or because it was an actual fact. When Shivananda Sen was thus perplexed, Nishinga Brahmachari said to him, "Bring more food. Let me cook again for Lord Nrsingadev." Then Shivananda Sen again brought the ingredients with which to cook, and Pradyumna Brahmachari again cooked and offered the food to Nrsingadev. The next year, Shivananda went to Jagannath Puri with all the other devotees to see the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One day, in the presence of all the devotees, the Lord raised these topics concerning Nishingananda Brahmachari and praised his transcendental qualities. The Lord said, last year, in the month of Posha, when Nishingananda gave me varieties of sweetmeats and vegetables to eat, they were so good that I felt I had never before eaten such preparations. Hearing this, all the devotees were struck with wonder, and Shivananda became confident that the incident was true. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to eat at the temple of Shachimata every day, and also visit the house of Srivas Thakur when kirtan was performed. Similarly, he was always present when Nityananda Prabhu danced, and he regularly appeared at the house of Raghava. Lord Gaurasundara is greatly influenced by the love of his devotees. Therefore, wherever there is pure devotion to the Lord himself, subdued by such love, appears, and his devotees see him. Influenced by the loving affairs of Shivananda Sen, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came again and again. Therefore, who can estimate the limits of his love? Thus I've described the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyone who hears about these incidents can understand the transcendental opulence of the Lord. I want to make one comment. This means without argument. It means with full faith and without argument. When your mind comes to the point where you won't doubt at all, is this happening? Could that have happened? Is this? It's kind of like Shivananda saying, as we heard, he was feeling doubtful, so then he got an answer. So if you can hear these pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without arguing and without doubting, with full faith and love, then you get immediately love of Krishna. It sounds simple but it's a very big thing. But that's the path of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At Jagannath Puri, in the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, lived Bhagavan Acharya, who was certainly a gentleman, a learned scholar, and a great devotee. Purport: for a description of Bhagavan Acharya, one may refer to Antya-lila, 10th chapter, verse 136. He was fully absorbed in thoughts of fraternal friendships with God. He was an incarnation of cowherd boy, and thus his dealings with Swarup Damodar Goswami were very friendly. He sought the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet with full surrender. Sometimes he would invite the Lord to dine at his home. Bhagavan Acharya prepared varieties of rice and vegetables at home and brought the Lord there alone to eat. Purport. Generally, those who invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for dinner used to offer him the remnants of food that had first been offered to Lord Jagannath. Bhagavan Acharya, however, instead of giving him the remnants of Jagannath's food, prepared dinner at his home. In Orissa, food offered to Lord Jagannath is called prasadi, and that which is not offered to Lord Jagannath is known as amani, or garabata, rice prepared at home. Bhagavan Acharya's father, whose name was Shatananda Khan, was an expert statesman, whereas Bhagavan Acharya was not at all interested in the management of the state. Indeed, he was almost in the renounced order of life. Bhagavan Acharya's brother, whose name was Gopal Bhattacharya, had studied Vedanta philosophy in Benares and had then returned to Bhagavan Acharya's home. Purport. During those days, as at the present, Vedanta philosophy was understood through the commentary of Shankar Acharya, which is known as the Shariraka Bhashya. Thus it appears that Gopal Bhattacharya, the younger brother of Bhagavan Acharya, had studied Vedanta according to the way of the Shariraka Bhashya, which expounds the Mayavad philosophy of the impersonalists. Bhagavan Acharya took his brother to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but the Lord, knowing that Gopal Bhattacharya was a Mayavadi philosopher, could not get much happiness from meeting him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu derives no happiness from meeting one who is not a pure devotee of Krishna. Thus, because Gopal Bhattacharya was a Mayavadi scholar, the Lord felt no jubilation in meeting him. Nevertheless, because Gopal Bhattacharya was related to Bhagavan Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu feigned pleasure in meeting him. Bhagavan Acharya said to Swarup Damodar, Gopal, my younger brother, has returned to my home, having concluded his study of Vedanta philosophy. Bhagavan Acharya requested Swarup Damodar Goswami to hear from Gopal the commentary upon Vedanta. Swarup Damodar, however, somewhat angry because of love, spoke as follows. You have lost your intelligence in the association of Gopal, and therefore you are eager to hear the Mayavad philosophy. When a Vaishnava listens to the Shariraka Bhashya, the Mayavad commentary upon the Vedanta Sutra, he gives up his Krishna conscious attitude that the Lord is the master and the living entity is his servant. Instead, he considers himself the Supreme Lord. Purport. The philosophers known as Kevaladvaita Vadis generally occupy themselves with hearing the Shariraka Bhashya, a commentary by Shankaracharya, advocating that one impersonally consider oneself the Supreme Lord. Such Mayavad philosophical commentaries upon the Vedanta Sutra are simply imaginary, but there are other commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra. The commentary by Srila Ramanujacharya, known as Sri Bhashya, establishes the Vishishtadvaita Vad philosophy. Similarly, in the Brahma Sampradaya, Madhvacharya's Purna Pragya Bhashya establishes Shuddhadvaita Vad. In the Kumara Sampradaya, or Nimbarka Sampradaya, Sri Nimbarka establishes the philosophy of Dvait Advaita Vad. In the Parijata Saurabhya Bhashya, and in the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, or Rudra Sampradaya, which comes from Lord Shiva, Vishnu Swami has written a commentary called Sarvagya Bhashya, which establishes Shuddhadvaita Vad. A Vaishnava should study the commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra written by the four Sampradaya Acharyas, namely Sri Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, and Nimbarka. For these commentaries are based upon the philosophy that the Lord is the Master and that all living entities are His eternal servants. One interested in studying Vedanta philosophy properly must study these commentaries, especially if he is a Vaishnava. These commentaries are always adored by Vaishnavas. The commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is elaborately given in the Adi-lila. Chapter 7, text 101. The Mayavad commentary, Shariraka Bhashya, is like poison for a Vaishnava. It should not be touched at all. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur remarks that even a Mahabhagavat, or highly elevated devotee, who has surrendered himself under the lotus feet of Krishna, sometimes falls down from pure devotional service if he hears the Mayavad philosophy of Shariraka Bhashya. Shall I repeat that? Sometimes Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur remarks that even a Mahabhagavat, or highly elevated devotee, who has surrendered himself under the lotus feet of Krishna, sometimes falls down from pure devotional service if he hears the Mayavad philosophy of the Shariraka Bhashya. This commentary should therefore be shunned by all Vaishnavas. One time, a devotee, because Prabhupada's purports are full of this idea, and he reputes the Mayavad philosophy how many times in all his purports? Can't count them. I suppose you could, but... And one time a devotee asked Prabhupada, you spend so much time in your purports, defeating the Mayavad philosophy, but here in the West there are no Mayavads. Prabhupada looked at him and said, I repeat it over and over again because you're the Mayavad. So we should not underestimate this statement, because we have heard, as we were growing up, so much Mayavad philosophy in the name of some religion or another, or some ism or another, or some philosophy or another. And therefore it's there. Everything that we hear, we taste, we smell, we feel, we touch, it's all there in our subtle body. All the experiences are all there in our subtle, lodged in our subtle body. And they can come out at any time. So here is a very important point being made. Even a Mahabhagavat, that means one who's completely purified, completely surrendered to Krishna. If he submissively hears the Mayavad philosophy, he can fall down. So how careful should we be? The Mayavad philosophy presents such a jugglery of words that even a highly elevated devotee who has accepted Krishna as his life and soul changes his decision when he reads the Mayavad commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. In spite of Sarup Damodar's protest, Bhagavan Acharya continued, we are all fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna with our hearts and souls. Therefore, the Shariraka Bhashya cannot change our minds. First mistake. Sarup Damodar replied, nevertheless, when we hear the Mayavad philosophy, we hear that Brahman is knowledge, and that the universe of Maya is false, but we gain no spiritual understanding. In other words, he's saying, even if you don't fall down, it's a useless waste of time, because you're hearing nonsense. The Mayavadi philosopher tries to establish that the living entity is only imaginary, and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is under the influence of Maya. Hearing this kind of commentary breaks the heart of a life of a devotee. Purport. Srila Sarup Damodar Goswami wanted to impress upon Bhagavan Acharya that even though someone firmly fixed in devotion to Krishna's service might not be deviated by hearing the Mayavad Bhashya, that Bhashya is nevertheless full of impersonal words and ideas, such as Brahman, which represent knowledge, but which are impersonal. The Mayavadis say that the world created by Maya is false, and that actually there is no living entity, but only one spiritual effulgence. They further say that God is imaginary, that people think of God only because of ignorance, and that when the Supreme Absolute Truth is befooled by the external energy Maya, he becomes a jiva, or living entity. Upon hearing all these nonsensical ideas from the non-devotee, a devotee is greatly afflicted, as if his heart and soul were broken. How many times have you heard in your lifetime, you have to go to the light? Thus, Bhagavan Acharya, greatly ashamed and fearful, remained silent. The next day he asked Gopal Bhattacharya to return to his own district. One day, Bhagavan Acharya invited Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to dine at his home. Thus he was preparing rice and various types of vegetables. A devotee named Chota Haridas used to sing for Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhagavan Acharya called him to his home and spoke as follows. Please go to the sister of Shiki Mahiti. In my name, ask her for a mana of white rice and bring it here. Purport. In India, Shukla Chaul, white rice, is also called Atapa Chaul, or rice that has not been boiled before being husked. Another kind of rice called Siddha Chaula, brown rice, is boiled before being husked. Generally, first-class fine white rice is required for offerings to the deity. Thus, Bhagavan Acharya asked Chota Haridas, or Junior Haridas, a singer in the assembly of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, to get some of this rice from the sister of Shiki Mahiti. A mana is a standard of measurement in Orissa for rice and other food grains. Shiki Mahiti's sister was named Madhavi Devi. She was an elderly lady who always performed austerities. She was very advanced in devotional service. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu accepted her as having formerly been an associate of Srimati Radharani. In the entire world, 3.5 people were his intimate devotees. The three were Swarup Damodar Goswami, Ramananda Roy, Shiki Mahiti, and the half of a person was Shiki Mahiti's sister. The better half, as they say. You know. Common language. After begging the rice from her, Junior Haridas brought it to Bhagavan Acharya, who was very pleased to see its quality. In great affection, Bhagavan Acharya cooked varieties of vegetables and other preparations dear to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He also obtained remnants of food from Lord Jagannath and digestive aids such as ground ginger and also lime salt. At noon, when Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to eat the offerings of Bhagavan Acharya, he first appreciated the fine rice and therefore questioned him. Oh, I went to wrong. Sorry, I pushed the wrong button. I hope I'm still in the same place. Yeah. Where did you get such fine rice? The Lord asked. Bhagavan Acharya replied, I got it by begging from Madhavi Devi. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu asked who had begged the rice and brought it back, Bhagavan Acharya mentioned the name of Junior Haridas. Praising the quality of the rice, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu partook of the prasadam. Then, after returning to his residence, he gave the following order to Govinda, his personal assistant. From this day forward, do not allow Chota Haridas to come here. When Junior Haridas heard that he had been ordered not to approach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very unhappy. No one could understand why he had been ordered not to come. Haridas fasted continuously for 3 days. Then Srup Damodar Goswami and other confidential devotees approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to inquire from him, "What great offense has Junior Haridas committed? Why has he been forbidden to come to your door? He has now been fasting for 3 days." The Lord replied, "I cannot tolerate seeing the face of a person who has accepted the renounced order of life, but who still talks intimately with women." Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that saralata, or simplicity, is the first qualification of a Vaishnava, whereas duplicity, or cunning behavior, is a great offense against the principles of devotional service. As one advances in Krishna consciousness, one must gradually become disgusted with material attachment, and thus become more and more attached to the service of the Lord. If one is not factually detached from material activities, but still proclaims himself advanced in devotional service, he is cheating. No one will be happy to see such behavior. So strongly do the senses adhere to the objects of their enjoyment that indeed a wooden statue of a woman attracts the mind of even a great saintly person. Purport. The senses and the sense objects are so intimately connected that the mind of even a great saintly person is attracted to a wooden doll if it is attractively shaped like a young woman. The sense objects, namely form, sound, smell, taste, and touch, are always attractive for the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Since the senses and the sense objects are naturally intimately related, sometimes even a person claiming control over his senses remains always subject to the control of sense objects. The senses are impossible to control unless purified and engaged in the service of the Lord. Thus, even though a saintly person vows to control his senses, the senses are still sometimes perturbed by sense objects. One should not sit closely with one's mother, sister, or daughter, for the senses are so strong that they may attract even a person advanced in knowledge. This verse appears in the Manu Samhita and Srimad Bhagavatam. There are many persons with little in their possession who accept the renounced order of life like monkeys. They go here and there, engaging in sense gratification and speaking intimately with women. Purport. One should strictly follow the regulated principles, namely no illicit sex, no meat eating, no intoxication, and no gambling. And in this way one should make progress in spiritual life. If an unfit person sentimentally accepts vairagya or takes sannyas, but at the same time remains attached to women, he is in a very dangerous position. His renunciation is called markata vairagya, or renunciation like that of a monkey. The monkey lives in the forest, eats fruit, and does not even cover itself with a cloth. In this way it resembles a saint. But the monkey always thinks of female monkeys and sometimes keeps dozens of them for sexual intercourse. This is called markata vairagya. Therefore, one who is unfit should not accept the renounced order of life. One who accepts the renounced order of sannyas, but again becomes agitated by sensual disturbances and talks privately with women, is called dharma dwaji, or dharma kalanka, which means that he brings condemnation upon the religious order. Therefore, one should be extremely careful in this connection. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains the word markata to mean restless. A restless person cannot be steady. Therefore, he simply wanders about, gratifying his senses, just to get praise from others, to get cheap adoration from his followers or people in general. Such a person sometimes accepts the dress of a sannyasi or babaji in the renounced order, but he cannot give up desires for sense gratification, especially for the association of women. Such a person cannot make an advancement in spiritual life. There are 8 different kinds of sensual enjoyment with women, including talking about them and thinking about them. Thus, for a sannyasi, a person in the renounced order, talking intimately with women is a great offense. Sri Ramananda Roy and Srila Narottam Das Thakur actually achieved the most elevated stage of the renounced order, but those who imitate them, accepting them as ordinary human beings, fall under the influence of the material energy, for that is a great misunderstanding. Text 121. After saying this, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu entered his room. Seeing him in such an angry mood, all the devotees fell silent. The next day, all the devotees together approached the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to submit an appeal on behalf of Junior Haridas. Haridas has committed a small offense, they said. Therefore, O Lord, please be merciful to him. Now he has received a sufficient lesson. In the future, he will not commit such an offense. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, said, "My mind is not under my control. It does not like to see anyone in the renounced order of life who talks intimately with women. You should all tend to your respective engagements. Give up this useless talk. If you speak this way again, I shall go away and you will no longer see me here." Hearing this, all the devotees covered their ears with their hands, got up, and went about their respective duties. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu also left that place to perform his noon duties. No one could understand his pastimes. The next day, all the devotees went to Sri Paramananda Puri. Paramananda Puri is a godbrother of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. The next day, all the devotees went to Sri Paramananda Puri and requested him to pacify the Lord. Paramananda Puri therefore went alone to the residence of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord, after offering his obeisances, seated him by his side with great respect. The Lord inquired, "What is your order? For what purpose have you come here?" Paramananda Puri then submitted his prayer that the Lord show favor to Junior Haridas. Hearing this request, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "My dear Lord, please hear me. It is better for you to stay here with all the Vaishnavas. Please give me permission to go to Alalanath. I shall remain there alone. Only Govinda will go with me." After saying this, the Lord called for Govinda. Offering obeisances to Paramananda Puri, he got up and began to leave. In great haste, Paramananda Puri Gosai went before him and with great humility persuaded him to sit down in his room. Paramananda Puri said, "My dear Lord Chaitanya, you are the independent personality of Godhead. You can do whatever you like. Who can say anything above you? All your activities are for the benefit of people in general. We cannot understand them, for your intentions are deep and grave." After saying this, Paramananda Puri Gosai left for his own home. Then all the devotees went to see Junior Haridas. Sri Damodar said, "Please hear us, Haridas, for we all wish you well. Please believe this." At present, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is persisting in his mood of anger because he is the independent, Supreme Personality of Godhead. At some time, however, he will surely be merciful, for at heart he is very kind. The Lord is persisting, and if you persist, his persistence will increase. It is better for you to bathe and take prasadam. In due course, his anger will automatically subside. Having said this, Sri Damodar Goswami induced Haridas to bathe and take prasadam. After thus reassuring him, he returned home. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Lord Jagannath in the temple, Haridas would stay a long distance away and see him. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the ocean of mercy. Who can understand him? when he chastises his dear devotees, he certainly does so to re-establish the principles of religion or duty. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says in this connection that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the ocean of mercy, chastised Junior Haridas, although Junior Haridas was his dear devotee, to establish that one in the devotional line engaged in pure devotional service should not be a hypocrite. For a person engaged in devotional service in the renounced order, having intimate relationships with women is certainly hypocrisy. This chastisement was given to Junior Haridas as an example to future sahajas who might adopt the dress of the renounced order to imitate Rupa Goswami and the other bona fide sannyasis, but secretly have illicit connections with women. To teach such men, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu chastised his dear devotee Haridas for a slight deviation from the regulated principles. Srimati Madhavi Devi was a highly elevated devotee. Therefore, approaching her to ask for some rice to serve Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was certainly not very offensive. Nevertheless, just to preserve the regulated principles for the future, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu enforced the hard and fast rule that no one in the renounced order should intimately mix with women. Had Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu not chastised Junior Haridas for this slight deviation, so-called devotees of the Lord would have exploited the example of Junior Haridas to continue their habit of illicit connections with women unrestrictedly. Indeed, they still preach that such behavior is allowed for a Vaishnava, but it is strictly not allowed. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the teacher of the entire world, and therefore he enforced this exemplary punishment to establish that illicit sexual connections are never allowed by Vaishnava philosophy. This was his purpose in chastising Junior Haridas. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is in fact the most magnanimous incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he strictly prohibited illicit sex. After all the devotees saw this example, a mentality of fear grew among them. Thus, they all stopped talking with women even in their dreams. The power of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We can't imitate that, and we can't imitate anything. All this pastime is very instructive. Afterward, I'll give you a little story, even if we go a little late, because it's so important. The purport. In connection with Sri Sambhashana, talking with women, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that talking with women for the purpose of mingling with them for sense gratification, subtle or gross, is strictly prohibited. Chanakya Pandit, the great moral instructor, said, Matribat Padadareshu. Thus, not only a person in the renounced order or one engaged in devotional service, but everyone should avoid mingling with women. One should consider another's wife his mother. In this way, a complete year passed for Junior Haridas, but still there was not a sign of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy toward him. Thus, at the end of one night, Junior Haridas, after offering Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu his respectful obeisances, departed for Prayag without saying anything to anyone. Junior Haridas had conclusively decided to attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, he entered deep into the water at Triveni, the confluent of the Ganges and Yamuna at Prayag, and in this way gave up his life. Immediately after committing suicide in this way, he went in his spiritual body. A very important point. Remember that. He went in his spiritual body, not a ghost. Important. Immediately after committing suicide in this way, he went in his spiritual body to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and received the mercy of the Lord. However, he still remained invisible. In a spiritual body resembling that of a Gandharva, Junior Haridas, although invisible, would sing at night for Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to hear. No one but the Lord, however, knew of this. One day, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from the devotees, "Where is Haridas? Now you may bring him here." The devotees all replied, "One night At the end of a full year, Junior Haridas got up and went away. No one knows where he has gone. While hearing the devotees lament, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was mildly smiling. Thus all the devotees were very much astonished. One day Jagadananda, Sarup, Govinda, Kashishwar, Shankar, Damodar, and Mukunda all went to bathe in the sea. They could hear Haridas singing from a distant place, as if calling them in his original voice. No one could hear him, no one could see him, but they could hear him singing in a sweet voice. Therefore all the devotees, headed by Govinda, made this guess. Haridas must have committed suicide by drinking poison, and because of this sinful act, he has now become a Brahmana ghost. We cannot see his material form, they say, but we can hear his sweet singing. Therefore, he must have become a ghost. Sarup Damodar, however, protested. This is a false guess. The Sarup Damodar he knew everything. Junior Haridas chanted the Hare Krishna mantra throughout his entire life and served the Supreme Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Moreover, he is dear to the Lord and has died in a holy place. Haridas cannot have been degraded. He must have attained liberation. This is a pastime of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu's. You will all understand it later. A devotee returned to Navadvip from Prayag and told everyone the details of Junior Haridas' suicide. He explained how Junior Haridas had made his resolution and had thus entered the waters at the confluence of the Jamuna and Ganges. Hearing these details, Srivas Thakur and the others were very surprised. At the end of the year, Shivananda Sen came to Jagannath Puri as usual, accompanied by other devotees, and thus in great happiness met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Srivas Thakur inquired from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Where is Junior Haridas?" the Lord replied, "A person is sure to achieve the results of his fruitive activities." Then Srivas Thakur related the details of Haridas's decision and his entering the waters of the confluence of the Ganges and Jamuna. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard these details, he smiled in a pleased mood and said, "If with sensual intentions one looks at women, this is the only process of atonement." Then all the devotees headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami concluded that because Haridas had committed suicide at the confluence of the rivers Ganges and Yamuna, he must have ultimately attained shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur remarks that after one adopts the renounced order and accepts the dress of either a sannyasi or Babaji, if he entertains the idea of sense gratification, especially in relationship with a woman, the only atonement is to commit suicide at the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna. Only by such atonement can his sinful life be purified. If such a person is thus punished, it is possible for him to attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Without such punishment, however, the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very difficult to regain. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Sachi, performs his pastimes, which greatly satisfy the ears and minds of pure devotees who hear about them. This incident manifests the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his teachings that a sannyasi should remain in the renounced order, and the deep attachment to him felt by his faithful devotees. It also demonstrates the glories of holy places and shows how the Lord accepts his faithful devotee. Thus the Lord fulfilled 5 or 7 purposes by performing one pastime. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like nectar, and they are deep like the ocean. People in general cannot understand them, but a sober devotee can. Please hear the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with faith and confidence. Do not argue, for arguments will produce a contrary result. Sri Rupa Raghunatapadi Yada Ash, Caitanya-caritamrta, Kahi Krishnadas. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Caitanya-caritamrta, following in their footsteps. Instructions from this chapter. Summarizing this chapter, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati following lessons. We're all here? Okay. Summarizing this, 1. Although Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is an incarnation of mercy, he nevertheless gave up the company of one of his personal associates, namely Junior Haridas, for if he had not done so, pseudo-devotees would have taken advantage of Junior Haridas's fault, by using it as an excuse to live in it as devotees, and at the same time have illicit sexual connections. Such activities would have demoralized the cult of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and as a result, devotees would surely have gone to a hellish life in the name of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. 2. By chastising Junior Haridas, the Lord set the standard for acharjas, or the heads of institutions propagating the Chaitanya cult, and for all actual devotees. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to maintain the highest standard. 3. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu instructed that a pure devotee should be simple and free from sinful activities, for thus one can be his bona fide servant. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu taught his followers how to observe the renounced order strictly. 4. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to prove that his devotees are exalted and that their character is ideal. He kindly accepts his faithful devotees and teaches them how much tribulation and disturbance can be produced from even a slight deviation from the strict principles of devotional life. 5. By chastising Junior Haridas, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his mercy toward him, thus showing how elevated was Junior Haridas's devotion for him. Because of this transcendental relationship, the Lord corrected even a slight offense committed by his pure devotee. Therefore, one who wants to be a pure devotee of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu should give up all material sense gratification. Otherwise, the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are very difficult to obtain. 6. If one dies in such a celebrated holy place as Prayag, Mathura, or Vrindavan, one can be relieved of the reactions to sinful life and then attain the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 7. Although a pure or faithful devotee may fall down, he nevertheless